Throughout history, mankind has built sites of great spiritual significance. Siwa, Giza, Persepolis, Mohenjo-Daro, Sukhothai, Nazca, Machu Picchu. Now, here's the strange part. If you were to draw a line through these ancient sites around the globe, you get a perfectly aligned circle.
The Great Circle.
Exactly.
Sounds like a coincidence to me.
They did it, folks. The first real Indiana Jones game has been released in over 15 years, and it's a humdinger.
For me? No, that's the latest humdinger out of New York City.
I say real game because LEGO Indiana Jones 2 and some mobile games don't really count as they didn't add anything new to the series. The same cannot be said about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. If I had to quickly summarize my thoughts of the game to someone who was a fan of the film series, I would just say that Machine Games, the lovely developer behind this game, just gets it. The entire team, from the environment artists, level designers, character artists, writers, the sound design, and the music team, everyone absolutely understood the spirit of Indiana Jones and what would make it into a great adventure game.
Come on!
What about the fire?
You'll have to find a way over it. Come on! I don't think you made it! Let's go! Oh, thank God we're out of there.
If you aren't already a fan and you were curious about the game or the series, I'd say you could compare it to adjacent games like Tomb Raider or Uncharted, because Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is cut from the exact same cloth. And when you think about it, Tomb Raider and Uncharted were cut from the Indiana Jones cloth, which makes the whole thing go full circle into one big Indiana Jones quilt. Now, I am a big fan of the film series, and one of the coolest parts of playing through this game for me was seeing all the different doors that it opens and all the potential it has to kick off a new series of Indiana Jones adventures in the form of video games. Taking place between Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade, the placement of this game in the Indiana Jones timeline feels intentionally chosen to give Indy the development we saw in the first film, but not all the development we saw by the time The Last Crusade was over. This is the thing that gave me hope that this game wasn't just a one-off, but rather the start of a brand new run of Indiana Jones adventures. With the release of the Dial of Destiny movie, I've personally accepted that the Indiana Jones films are over. In fact, I thought that was the case with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But with how well this game was made and how authentic everything feels to the series, I'm more than happy to accept this game and everything else that gets made as canon. So when it was first announced that this was going to be a Bethesda game, I was not thrilled. Despite their pedigree, Bethesda games to me are stiff, janky games that feel 10 years old already at launch, and I was just hoping for something better for a series that I love so much. But the lowered expectations may have ended up being a good thing because I was truly blown away by this game. My expectations got set even lower, and I was really bummed to see that it was revealed as a first-person adventure rather than the third-person perspective we've seen in previous Indiana Jones games. I understand that a third-person perspective may have made the game look and play and feel far too much like Uncharted or Tomb Raider, but I worried that it would be easy to forget or even dissociate from the fact that you were even playing an Indiana Jones game if you weren't actually seeing him on screen the whole time. But that's not the case, and I'll tell you why. Despite playing through the eyes of Indy, you are constantly hearing him interact with the people and the world around him, with Indy's voice very convincingly realized by an uncanny performance by Troy Baker.
What's this? Wait a minute. Wasn't there an excavation led by some British professor? Could be a lead.
There really isn't a better word for it than uncanny. I mean, you listen to the voice acting in this game and you'd swear it was recorded dialogue from Harrison Ford right off the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's unbelievable. For every note and photograph or piece of the environment that Indy can interact with, he has voice lines to go with it. He'll discuss the historical significance of an artifact he uncovers or make a comment on a news clipping that he finds laying around.
Oceanus and his sons. Romans were fascinated with ancient Greece.
He'll even go back and forth with the characters nearby about his thought process and feelings on the often supernatural occurrences going on around him.
Who is this poor individual?
Father Crescenzo, perhaps.
Li possono impacere.
His writing certainly is eccentric.
The authenticity in the writing truly feels lifted from the script of one of the films, and Indy's character is understood from every angle.
Hello, little darling.
Whether he's being funny or serious or scared or angry, every line of dialogue that Indy has just works, and it does a great job of keeping his character ever present, even when we're not seeing him. That doesn't mean we never see him though, because there are loads of cutscenes throughout the game, and we do sometimes get a third-person perspective of him as he's interacting with the world. There are even moments where the lighting is set up for you to see Indy's shadow drawn out in front of him, recreating the iconic silhouette that's seen in the films. Just a heads up, and for the sake of keeping this video spoiler free, I'm only going to be showing gameplay from the first 2 chapters of this game, and even within that, I'm going to be keeping any spoiler heavy scenes out of the video, because I really do want you to experience this game yourself. One of the game's biggest strengths is how it doesn't rely on material from the films to keep the player's attention or beg for relevance. With the exception of the opening tutorial, virtually everything in this game is brand new to the series. There are a lot of excellent new characters that fit really well into the Indiana Jones canon, while references to previously established characters and interactions with familiar faces like Marcus Brody keep the game from feeling entirely removed from the films.
Spoke some form of Latin.
Latin? Well, that is a novelty.
If I didn't know that Antonio had never appeared in the movies, I would have assumed he would have appeared right alongside Indy's other resourceful sidekicks like Sala, Henry Jones Sr., and Short Round.
Wow!
After the fall of Constantinople, Pope Nicholas V tried to declare a crusade on the Ottomans, but
It didn't happen. Nicholas V, his tower. That's his monument.
He's got the personality and the charismatic energy of the kind of friends that Indy keeps, and so do all the other supporting characters that are added in this game too. On that, each of the characters are genuinely interesting and full of life, each having their own reasons for being a part of the adventure. The dialogue and the character interactions with Indy are all really fun to watch, again because of the exceptionality of the writing, but also due to great performances from the whole cast, with standout performances from Troy Baker and the late Tony Todd. The exact same thing can be said about the antagonists of this game. The Frollo-coded Father Ventura in the Vatican, as well as Emmerich Voss and Victor Gantz, again, feel taken straight from one of the films without any of them feeling like a bargain bin version of a character that we've seen before. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that these antagonists are even more interesting than the ones we see in the film, just because we get to see and spend so much more time with them over the course of the roughly 16-hour game. Saving the best for last in the category of supporting characters, Gina is excellent. She's got an air of mystery to her right from her first appearance, and as you continue to run into her and eventually team up with her for a mutual cause, her connection to this story grows and is truly believable and easy to become invested in. She's competent, she's helpful, and her motivations are her own, so I think she fits into the series beautifully. Together, Gina and Indy have a number of really great character moments together, and she also plays a bit of a foil character to him in not being convinced of the supernatural or the significance of the things they're uncovering.
Legend says that the Great Circle does have some power, something about its geometry, a deeper force that connects these sites.
Yeah, but that's superstition. And I don't believe in superstition.
Neither do I. But if Voss thinks those stone relics can help the Reich, then we have to find them before he does.
No, you have to find them. I have to find my sister.
Just like the game's antagonists, we get to spend a lot of time with her character, so I find her to be a much more compelling heroine than what we saw in the films with Elsa or Willie. Just to make this very clear, I think Willie is an excellent character, and I love her despite how annoying she can be seen as. In fact, I love Temple of Doom as a whole, and I don't mean to slander it at all. Just wanted that on the record.
Get him off of me! Get him off of me! They're all over me! Get him off of me!
Spielberg has said that his intention was to have a new love interest for Indy in each film, and even though that was sort of backpedaled on later with Marion returning in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I still understand the why behind it, as he wanted to do something along the lines of the traditional James Bond girl being different in each new movie. But do I want to see Gina return in future games? I'm not sure. Honestly, I like her character, and I think that if her role can continue to grow and not just be relegated to the simple part of love interest, then I'm totally on board. What I really think would be cool to see would be the games giving him a new sidekick along the lines of Short Round or Henry Jones Sr. I mean, who knows, maybe Troy Baker does a good Sean Connery impression.
Those people are trying to kill him. I know, Dad! It's a new experience for me. Happens to me all the time.
One of the better parts of the Indiana Jones movies is seeing the villains get what's coming to them at the end of the day, and believe me, they do, every single time. And this game follows suit, delivering constant satisfaction with Indy beating the unholy shit out of Nazis and Mussolini fascists from start to finish.
To the Dreamlands.
There are also some really great Spielberg-coded moments here that feel like bits from the films, like a guy sneezing and giving away his location, or this guy getting knocked out from behind while he's taking a piss in a bucket. And speaking of knockouts, the combat in this game evokes the exact same energy that the movies do. I described the fights that Indy finds himself in during the films as scrappy, with him often just using his fists to fight against people who are much bigger or better armed than he is. You'll also see him and his friends using whatever nearby objects they have available to get the job done. The game often scatters blunt objects around an area to smack the enemies with, whether it's from behind or right across their skull. And these objects can be anything from actual weapons to funnier things like a guitar or a toilet brush. Just taking a quick break in the middle here. If you've watched the video this far, I'm truly grateful. Thank you so much. And if you like what you see, maybe you want to go ahead and hit the like button and maybe even click the subscribe button. As I'm sure you've heard a million times before, these are the things that help people out for making videos, and I plan on making more videos like this in the future. So if you're having a good time and you want to see whatever else I come up with next, hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified whenever a new video comes out. Thanks. Back to the video.
You'd be surprised how often it comes in handy.
Indy's whip, of course, plays a vital role in the game as well, with multiple uses like pulling objects, disarming enemies, or climbing. And hot damn if they didn't make every single crack of that whip sound satisfying. The game also contains a fully original score that, surprise, surprise, feels like John Williams wrote it himself, even down to the small musical cues, such as when an enemy spots you. Obviously, the main theme of the films is still here, and other recognizable music cues that tie the world of the game to the world of the movies.
I haven't opened this suitcase for a year. Not since Cairo.
There are actually several very small nods to the characters and events of the films, but none of it feels like winking at the camera fan service, and I thought it was tastefully done.
Are you familiar with the Chechapoyan fertility idol last seen with a certain Renee Belloc, the grave robber?
Also, this one is me looking way too deep into it, but...
She'll be all right. Have a date. Marion.
Hey, what's this?
It's a date. You eat 'em.
My friend and I found that line in the movie to be particularly funny for some reason, so it immediately stood out to me the first time I picked up a date in the game. Anyways, you can tell that the team was really passionate about the series and did their research because there's a spirit to the films that was captured in a bottle and used throughout the making of this entire game.
Oh, there we go.
Like I said before, the music, the voice acting, the characters, the world building, the set pieces, the fight scenes, all of them would fit right in if they were in an Indiana Jones movie. At the heart of it all, there's a grand sense of scale to the adventure you're on, and those classic Indiana Jones moments of discovery and wonder are constant throughout the game. While I've been gushing positivity for this game, I do want to mention very briefly that, like any game, this isn't perfect. The only real negative that stood out to me was that the NPCs weren't all that bright 100% of the time. The enemy NPCs are programmed to react when they find a body of one of their fallen comrades, but sometimes they just don't. While capturing this gameplay, I did do a second playthrough on the harder difficulty and found, maybe through the placebo effect, that they tended to notice me in stealth sections a lot easier, and they definitely hit a lot harder, with only a few punches being able to take you down. That said, there were also moments where I was in plain sight and they had no reaction. Some of the human NPCs can also look a bit doughy and seem a bit lifeless, but these are generally NPCs you see very briefly, and I'd go as far as to say it doesn't really matter. But back to the good stuff, and why I think this game is going to be the starting point of an awesome new series of Indiana Jones games. There's so much excellent decision making and creativity at work here, it is just a great way to breathe new life into the series. And on the topic of excellent decision making, it was a great choice to make the game start with a recreation of the opening scene of Raiders as a way to ground the game within the world of the films. There was some deceptive magic at play here, blurring the lines between game and film, because we see the in-game models recreating the opening scene, as well as Troy Baker dubbing over the dialogue originally delivered by Harrison Ford in the film, all with the original John Williams score intact.
This is where Forrestal cashed in.
Friend of yours.
A competitor. He was good. He was very, very good.
Senor.
Each of the cutscenes in this opening is virtually a one-to-one recreation of what you see in the film. They definitely got Alfred Molina's dumbfounded expressions spot on. So after you play through some familiar movie moments, the tutorial wraps up and throws you right into the new story with one of the, if not the, most iconic piece of Indiana Jones imagery ever.
I learned to hate you in the last 10 years. Well, where the hell were you? Damn it, don't you leave me down here by myself!
And just like that, it's established that this is the same Dr. Jones with the same experiences that we've seen in the movies. Now we're jumping into a brand new story that takes place roughly a year after the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, which by extension has this game taking place also after Temple of Doom, which the films place about a year before Raiders of the Lost Ark starts. This is a perfect place to start the game because it rids Indy of having to have any sort of tedious character development where he's not sure about the supernatural or he's skeptical, and we all know it's real, he knows it's real, we can just skip past being cute about it and get to the good stuff. In Raiders, Indy and Marion closed their eyes and looked away when things started to get biblical, but in the Temple of Doom, he witnessed firsthand some unexplainable and messed up stuff. Like a man briefly surviving his own heart being pulled from his chest and voodoo dolls being confirmed as a viable method of torture. Temple of Doom really does feel like a fever dream that's sort of disconnected from the other films, but it's the one that got me into the movies and I was hooked, so I love it, and it's my personal favorite for completely subjective reasons. Digressions aside, Dr. Jones is a smart, contemplative, and crafty individual who expresses doubts about the supernatural towards the starts of the films, but turns from a skeptic to a believer by the time the Great Circle begins, and I truly believe that puts him in a position to be a much more interesting character. The timing of this story also puts Indy in his prime, but without having all of his character arcs completed. He's young, he's impulsive, he's distracted, he can even be self-centered and selfish.
Maybe I shouldn't have gone to the Siwa expedition, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
And when you got back, she wasn't there.
He's a character with lots of room for development, allowing the game devs to take the series in new directions, not just in regards to the locations you can explore, but what can happen with Indy's character as well. Canonically, after The Last Crusade, there's a 19-year gap between the end of the film and the beginning of the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, so these future games really have all the time in the world to play with.
Can't just run away from your problems, Indiana.
Watch me.
There's an entire planet full of lore for this series to explore, but I really love the story path that this game takes as a starting point. I won't get too deep into it to avoid any story-related spoilers, but what I will say is that just like the films, the story in the Great Circle plays on real-world lore and stories that people would be familiar with to weave its mystery. Many sections of the game are based on real-world locations, yet the fictional catacombs and tombs the game places beneath them are designed to feel as though they belong there naturally. Brief glimpses of light from the world above you and water that slip through the cracks bring each part of the world together in a cohesive creation. We all know that places like the Vatican archives, the catacombs, and unexplored tombs of Egypt really do exist in one form or another, and that's a big part of the excitement when you see an interpretation and exploration of what that might look like if you were able to explore it yourself. They could have chosen to go further out there with the storytelling in the same vein as the Temple of Doom or Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, where the mysteries are more original to the series themselves, but I appreciated that the game followed a similar path to Raiders and The Last Crusade. While Indiana Jones is definitely not a series that's firmly grounded in reality, I think this creative choice is a good starting point for tonally and thematically matching the core of the films, with opportunities to go crazy later on. The real star of the show here is Troy Baker's performance as Indiana Jones. So he did both the motion capture and voice acting for Indy, and like I mentioned before, it's near impossible to tell that it's someone doing a voice.
You have any idea of the archaeological significance of the Great Circle? I'm not letting this one go.
I don't care about your Great Circle. I just care about my sister.
I've had a run-in with the Nazis before, and trust me, it ain't a walk in the park.
The inflections, the intonation, the tone, the delivery. I'm gushing right now, but honestly, I just cannot commend this guy enough. He did such a good job. And I think it's his performance that's ultimately the linchpin to what makes this game feel like a canon entry. If the voice for Indy was just close enough, I think the entire game would have had a different vibe for the worse. But fortunately for us, it just feels like Harrison Ford is still there. Speaking of Harrison Ford, he himself has said that he doesn't want Indiana Jones to be recast once he's no longer able to play him. I agree that recasting Indiana Jones would be a bad move because Harrison Ford himself brings a lot to the role, and I just don't see a point in casting another actor to do it. But with all that said, Harrison Ford was so impressed by Troy Baker's performance, he even publicly praised it himself at the Game Awards.
I think this guy did a great job. If I'd known he was so good, I would have done it myself.
Having the character and the series live on in this format just feels like the right move, and I think it works a lot better than having someone like Pedro Pascal donning the whip and fedora, or Chris Pratt. Indiana Jones is a series that is special to me because they're the movies that got me into movies. While I was always an avid movie watcher, the Indiana Jones films were a huge part of what made me realize that I have a passion for filmmaking, and that's something that I'll always owe to Steven Spielberg and everyone else involved in the making of those movies. I think this is a series that's special to a lot of people, but I know that when it comes to the films, I think we all collectively understand that they're done. And after The Dial of Destiny wasn't the box office success that Disney was hoping for, I think it's truly safe to say that we've seen the end of the story. And this is why the timing is right for the games to keep the spirit of Indiana Jones alive. The Great Circle is a masterfully made adventure game that I enjoyed far more than I was expecting to. The game received both critical praise and awards, and as far as I'm aware, it did well financially, even outselling the Steam and Xbox versions of the game once it was released on PS5 a few months later. The doors are wide open, and I'm hopeful that the distributors of the game, as well as the owners of the Indiana Jones franchise IP, understand what they have here, because video games that tie into an existing film franchise rarely do this well in terms of quality and financial success. There are unconfirmed rumors that Disney's keen on seeing more Indiana Jones games in the future after this one did so well, but that's really all we have to go off of for now. In the end, there is an excellent team of developers out there that fully understand the assignment when it comes to putting the right pieces in place for this series to thrive and even hit a new peak. I can't speak for anyone but myself, but if they're given the opportunity, I truly trust this entire team to do great things as the adventure continues. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the end. I truly appreciate it a lot. This is the first video I've made for this channel and I had a lot of fun making it. It was a lot of gameplay footage and filming and editing to do, but the process is a lot of fun and I plan on making a lot more videos like this in the future. So If you liked what you saw today and you had a good time, go ahead and hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well, and you'll be notified whenever my next videos come out. I've got a couple in the pipeline already, and I'm looking forward to sharing them all with you, so stay tuned and look forward to see what comes next. Thank you so much.